Did you guys start recording? Okay,
I have.
so let's start. So the topic of today's debate is are Salafis Sunni. Um, the format of the debate, we're gonna have 10 minutes each opening statement, and then we're gonna have 5-minute rebuttals each, and then we're gonna have 20 minutes open discussion, and then finally we're gonna have 10 minutes Q&A from the audience. So if anyone wants to ask any of the speakers. So we're gonna start with Amir. He's gonna start with his opening statement. I'll start the timer once you start talking. So go ahead whenever you're ready.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The topic of today's debate is Are Salafis Sunni? Before we address this question, we must first establish a definition for the word Salafi. It is just a term after all, and it does not define every single one of your stances and beliefs. Two groups of people define this label differently. The group of people who identify as Salafi define the term as those who follow the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Salaf. Who are the Salaf? The early pious generations, which the Prophet praised in the Hadith. Thus, companions, tabi'in, and the ones who studied under the tabi'in. The group of people who oppose Salafis define this term as those who follow a specific set of beliefs which we oppose, and they usually define it as those who follow Ibn Taymiyyah or Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, and that's it. Now let us establish this set of beliefs. The main creedal issues that anti-Salafis have a problem with, those who identify as Salafi, are the following. The concept of bid'ah, whether or not there is such a thing as bid'ah hasana or no. The understanding of Tawheed, and more specifically the issue of splitting Tawheed into 3 categories, which does not really seem important right now. It's just like every different term that is used, like the word had, the word makan, and so on. They're not used by the Prophet, but they still have a correct meaning behind them. And those who deny the meaning behind them obviously are not muwahideen, because their meaning is correct. But the term itself, if you argue that we shouldn't use it, then there is no problem in not using it. We still affirm that Tawheed is affirming Allah's attributes, affirming Allah's names, affirming Allah's rububiyyah and uluhiyyah. No problem in that everybody accepts this. Their understanding of the sifat or attributes of Allah, and more specifically whether the apparent meanings of the Quran and the Sunnah should be followed or not. In this debate, I will demonstrate that the general stance of Salafis regarding these issues are all correct and in line with the Quran and the Sunnah and the teaching of the Sahaba and the early generations. If I succeed in that, then I will have proven that they are indeed from Ahl Sunnah, while whoever opposes them in these specific beliefs is not from Ahl Sunnah. Salafis say that there is no such thing as bid'ah hasana and that every bid'ah is evil and against the Sunnah. Their opponents, on the other hand, say that there is such a thing as bid'ah hasana. Not every bid'ah is evil. The stance of Salafis on this issue is clearly the correct one. Here are some of the numerous evidences for this position. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 3, Allah says, and what translates to, "Today I have perfected for you your religion for you, completed my favor upon you, and chosen Islam as your way." This verse says Allah perfected the religion for us, so why invent new teachings and practices and claim they're better for us? In Surah Yunus, verse 32, Allah says what translates to, "So what is beyond the truth except falsehood?" The truth is what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was sent with. Anything that is beyond that, including all bid'ah or innovation, is considered falsehood. In Surah Al-Shu'ara, verse 21, Allah says what translates to, "Or have they partners who have ordained for them in the religion that which Allah has not consented?" And Allah uses the word sharra'u. Sharra'u means legislate in many verses in Ahadith. Allah condemns whoever legislates something in the religion that He has not explicitly permitted. A direct condemnation of the entire concept of bid'ah. Aisha narrates from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he who innovates into this affair of ours, meaning the religion, something that is then it is rejected. In Arabic, rad, fahuwa rad. And in another version, he says, he who practices an action in another way than our practice, it is rejected. Now we're going to quote the narrations also. Abdullah bin Mas'ud is reported as saying, "Follow and do not innovate, for you have been sufficed. Every innovation is misguidance." Mu'adh bin Jabal radiyallahu anhu said one day, "Indeed, there will be trials behind you in which wealth will increase and the Quran will be open until the believer and the hypocrite, and so on till he reaches. For whatever is newly invented is an innovation, and I warn you against the deviation of the wise. Satan may speak a statement of misguidance through the tongue of a wise person, and a hypocrite may speak a statement of truth." This is narrated by Abu Dawud in 4611, and the wording is his, and At-Tabarani also in 20, page 115. Al-Hakim also authenticated it, Al-Hakim al-Naysaburi, on the condition of Muslim, and Al-Albani authenticated also in Sunan Abi Dawud, and Shu'aib al-Arnaut also verified it. Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, "As we said, follow and do not innovate, for you have been sufficed." This is narrated by Tabarani in 9154, 8770, that's the number of the hadith, and Ad-Darimi in 205, and Al-Bayhaqi in Shu'ab al-Iman, authenticated by Al-Albani and Al-Haythami. Its narrators are those of the Sahih according to Al-Haythami, who's a Ash'ari. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, exercising moderation in adhering to the Sunnah is better than striving in innovation. So being moderate in the Sunnah is better than even striving in innovation, like Ibn Mas'ud said. This is narrated by Ad-Darimi in 217 with a slight difference in wording, and Al-Hakim in 353, and Al-Bayhaqi also in 4933, and the wording is for both of them, authenticated by Al-Hakim, and he said, upon their, meaning Ad-Darimi and Bayhaqi condition, and Al-Albani in Sahih Targhib, and its narrators were trusted by Shu'ab al-Arnaut in the verification of the Sharh Sunnah. Now we're going to move to the topic of Tawheed. Now we move on to the topic of Tawheed. What are Salafis criticized for in regards to Tawheed? The main point of dispute is that Salafis consider actions such as making dua to dead people, prostrating to them, and doing pilgrimage as shirk, whereas their opponents either believe the permissibility of such action or they are against it, but do not consider them shirk. The evidence is Surah Al-Fatiha, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. It is you we worship, it is you we seek for aid. How can a Muslim read this verse and then proceed to go seek aid from a dead body in his grave instead of seeking it from Allah? Supplication is worship, like Rasulullah said in an authentic hadith. This means that supplicating to other besides Allah, including anything from dead saints to stone idols, is a clear association of partners with Allah, clear shirk, and many different verses, which we do not have time to quote. And the story of Datul Anwat also. Third topic is, how do we understand the attributes of Allah? Salafis are always condemned for affirming the apparent or affirming the attributes on the real meaning, on the haqiqi meaning. And are we wrong in this? No, we're not wrong. Ad-Darimi, 280, died 280, in his book said, we know the concept of metaphors from the language of the Arabs, which you have taken and used to confuse and mislead the ignorant. By means of this concept, you deny the reality of the divine attributes on the basis of the metaphor argument. This is what they do today. But we say it is wrong to judge the most common style in Arabic language on the basis of its rarest style. Rather, we should understand the statements of the Arabs on the basis of the most common style, unless you can produce proof that what is meant here is the rare style. So the asl, the principle in understanding the verses and attributes of Allah is on the apparent, unless there is evidence that it has to be a metaphor or taken on other than the apparent. This is the approach that is most fair, and it is not right to approach the divine attributes that are well known and understood as they appear to be by people of common sense and twist the meaning on the grounds that these are metaphors. Ad-Darimi is one of the main students of Imam Ahmad. At-Tabari narrated said, if someone were to say, what is the proper approach with regard to the meaning of these attributes that he had mentioned, some of which are mentioned in the book and the revelation of Allah, and some were mentioned by the Messenger, our response is the correct approach in our view is to affirm the meaning in a real sense, like we say, without likening him to his creation, as Allah himself said in the Quran, nothing is like him. So we affirm all the meanings that we said are mentioned in the reports in the Quran, the revelation according to their apparent meaning, and we reject any likening of him to his creation. Hence we say, he hears all sound, but not through a hole. Or any physical faculty. And the word physical here is translated from the word jariha, which means limb. And if we say Allah has a hand, we don't say Allah has a jariha. Jariha is a description of what a hand could be, not what a hand is. This is also in Tafsir fi Ma'alim al-Din, page 141 to 145. And then we have from Tafsir Ibn Abi Zamanin, of him translating the words. And we have Al-Bukhari in Khalq Af'al al-Ibad also. And we have in Bukhari in Kitab al-Tawheed at the end of Sahih al-Bukhari. And we have Abdullah ibn Ahmad in Kitab al-Sunnah, which is authenticated by many scholars such as Ibn Hajar, which he also trusts as a source. And we have from book of Imam Ahmad al-Rad al-Jahmiyyah, which Ibn Hajar also says Imam Ahmad said in al-Rad al-Jahmiyyah. Then we have from Naqd al-Darimi, which is also authenticated by Suyuti and Ibn Hajar. And Ibn Hajar has an isnad to that book, and Suyuti also mentioned that book, one of your main scholars. And also the other book of al-Darimi, which is Ar-Rad, and also it is authenticated by Suyuti and Ibn Hajar and many other scholars that you trust, and they have an isnad to that book. And Kitab al-Tawheed by Ibn Khuzaymah, which we take our beliefs also from, and it is authenticated by who? Ibn Hajar. He studied that book. And then Nawawi, he read that book and he studied it. Again, I have demonstrated that the stance of the Salafis is clearly the same stance supported by the Quran and the Sunnah. I am very curious to see which arguments my opponent will give to support his stance. Will he give verses from the Quran that say you can invoke others as Allah? Will he bring authentic narrations from the Sunnah saying you can attribute divine attributes to dead saints? Let us pay attention closely to the type of evidence my opponent will give and compare them to the verses and hadith I mentioned. How much time do you have left?
Okay, you still have 1 minute left, so if you wanna go back to the topic of Tawheed or anything, if you wanna keep
cool. We'll talk
you have 1
about
minute
this
left.
effect.
Yeah.
Let's go to the consensus of the scholar that Allah is on the throne. Sa'id ibn Amir al-Dubai said, he died 210. This is the earliest ijma' on this matter, reported by Al-Bukhari and Khalaf al-Albad. The Jahmiyyah are worse in their statement than the Jews and the Christians. So the Jahmiyyah, what do they say exactly? Al-Dubai says actually, but the Jahmiyyah say there is nothing upon the throne. And aren't Ash'aris saying the same thing? Yes, they do. Ishaq ibn Rahuya, the student of Imam al-Shafi'i, Sheikh of Imam Ahmad. Imam al-Shafi'i used to go to Rahuya for authentication of ahadith because he was one of the most knowledgeable. He quoted the ijma', and this is also quoted by al-Dahabi, who said, listen and be warned about this Imam, how he transmitted the consensus on this matter. And also Qutayba transmitted the ijma'. He said, the consensus of people of knowledge, that he is above the throne and he knows everything that is in the seven air. Qutayba ibn Sa'id said, the statement of the Imam in Islam and the Sunnah and the Jama'ah, we know our Lord above the seventh heaven on his throne as the most merciful, blessed, and exalted said, the most compassionate rose over the throne. This is them making tafsir of the verses.
Okay, so Amir is done with his opening statement. Ammar, are you ready to start yours?
Yes.
Okay, once you start, I'm gonna start the timer. So once you start speaking, I'll go ahead.
Okay. Bismillah. So today we are debating the topic, are Salafis Sunnis, right? This is a very important topic, and I think most of what my opponent said was based on subjective value judgments, and it wasn't really based on any evidence. And the other was just lies. Now, today we are not debating whether Asharis or Maturidis are Sunnis or not. We are just debating whether Salafis are Sunnis. So my arguments will stick to that. Now, there are a few arguments for knowing why Salafis aren't Sunnis, and it's actually quite simple. Now, I'll start with the first argument. There are a lot of ahadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he is basically saying that the saved sect, whatever that saved sect is, whatever the correct beliefs are, have to last from the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam till the end of time. Now, there's one hadith in Sahih Muslim 1923, right? I have sunnah.com open in front of me. I'll just read it. I don't think anyone will disagree with this. I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a group of people from my ummah will continue to fight in the truth, defense of the truth, and remain triumphant until the day of judgment, right? And there are other ahadiths like this, basically, which imply that the saved sect, whatever that saved sect is, has to last from the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam till the end of time. Now, simple fact is Salafi beliefs are not like this. Salafi beliefs are absent for large chunks of Islamic history. And to prove this point, and by the way, if Salafi beliefs are absent for large chunks of Islamic history, then they necessarily are false. Why? Because the correct beliefs, whatever they are, have to always be present. But Salafi beliefs are absent. And by the way, you don't need to take my word on this. I'll quote one scholar in this regard. I'll quote Ibn Taymiyyah from his Majmu'at al-Fatawa. I think it's 6/258, and I'll link this reference. This is, I'll just quote the English translation here. However, on the issue of visitation to the grave of Prophet ﷺ and other issues besides these have emanated from the later scholars, mutaakhirun, and there's a lot of confusion therein. At first, even myself and others were upon the way of our forefathers in this. We used to advocate the doctrine of innovators, meaning Ibn Taymiyyah, his contemporaries, and his predecessor Hanabila were misguided, right? Then, when it became clear to us what the Messenger ﷺ has brought, the matter became one of either following what Allah has revealed or following what we found our forefathers upon and what was necessary. Wajib is to follow the Messenger ﷺ. So, what is Ibn Taymiyyah saying here? Ibn Taymiyyah is saying here his contemporaries and his predecessor Hanabila have misguided beliefs, meaning, and the Ibn Taymiyyah's beliefs, the supposed correct beliefs, are not present in his predecessors. And if that's the case, then Salafiyah is necessarily false because these beliefs are absent for large chunks of Islamic history. Now, is Ibn Taymiyyah the only one saying this? No, actually, I have another reference from Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab in his letter to Qadi of Al-Diriyah, Sheikh Abdullah bin Isa. This is Ad-Duraya Saniya 1051. At that time, I did not know the meaning of this is Ibn Abdul Wahab saying this. At that time, I did not know the meaning of La ilaha illallah, nor did I know the religion of Islam prior to this blessing which Allah has graciously bestowed. It was exact same thing with my teachers. None of them had any such knowledge. His teachers are so misguided they don't even know the meaning of La ilaha illallah. This is what Ibn Abdul Wahab is saying. Therefore, any of the ulama of Arid who claimed that he knew the meaning of La ilaha illallah or that he knew the meaning of Islam has certainly lied, falsified, and deceived the people. Uh, basically saying all his contemporaries and their predecessors are kuffar. Basically, he's takfiring them. Uh, if he claimed any of his teachers has any such knowledge, then he has certainly lied, falsified, and deceived the people while praising himself with something which he does not possess. Now, what are Ibn Abdul Wahab and Ibn Taymiyyah saying here? They are saying their beliefs are absent, and they are absent for large chunks of Islamic history. If that's the case, then as I have already established, Salafiyah is necessarily false. This is a sound deductive argument. If the premises are true, the conclusion necessarily follows. So, this basically shows that Salafiyah are false, and to be honest, this would be enough, more than enough. But I'll give another argument. There's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari 1344 where basically Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is at a funeral and he says, by Allah, I am not afraid that you will worship others along with Allah after my death, but I am afraid this is the relevant part. I am not afraid that you will worship others along with Allah after my death, meaning the Ummah won't fall into shirk. This is clear cut from this hadith. Now, here's the second argument for Salafiyah being wrong. According to Salafis, Istighasa is shirk, and I can basically bring dozens of scholars, including Imam Ahmad, Imam Ibn Qudama, etc., doing Istighasa. If that's the case, all of them are mushrik. But to be honest, the point about Istighasa, the references are wrong, are really long. I will keep things really simple. If Salafi beliefs are correct, Qasida Burda is shirk. Right? This is not something complicated. This is something most Salafis will admit. Like this is, if Salafi beliefs are correct, Qasida Burda is shirk. Yet, the problem for Salafiyah is Qasida Burda has been accepted by Muslim scholars of all basically groups throughout Islamic history. Hanbali, Shafis, Malikis, Hanafis, all of them have accepted it. In fact, Qasida Burda Sharif was hanging on the walls of Masjid al-Nabwi for centuries. This is something that is widely accepted by all the Ummah and its scholars. Right? Now, if that's the case, if this is shirk, then all the Ummah has fallen into shirk. Necessarily. But that means the hadith is false. The hadith cannot be false. So Ummah cannot fall into shirk. Hence Qasida Burda is not shirk. Hence the Salafi beliefs are misguided. Now these are the two main arguments against Salafiyah being guided, and to be blunt, there is literally no way around this. But there's another massive problem for Salafis here, and I link this reference in the messages, right? This basically has quotes from almost all. Actually, I can't link in the messages, but if anyone wants, I'm happy to provide references, right? Basically, we have references from almost most of the major Hanbalis throughout history, going from the time of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal to Imam ibn Qudama, etc., etc. When talking about the creed regarding their beliefs regarding Allah, they are saying the meanings of things like hand, etc., are not known. They are not just saying there is no kayfiya is not known. They are saying the mana, the meaning is not known. And this is not just one or two references, these are dozens of references. I'm happy to link it. In fact, I'm linking it in the group chat. So one of the guys running the Discord server, right? They can post it here for all to see. The references are there. The Arabic is given as well from most of the prominent Hanabila throughout history. Again, another massive refutation for Salafiyah. Why? Because they are trying to claim Hanbalis, yet Hanbalis have directly contradictory beliefs to the Salafis. So this is a third argument for Salafiyah being misguided. Fourth argument, right? And this is a really simple one and an interesting one. According to our hadith, and everyone here I think knows this hadith, A Mujaddid is supposed to come every 100 years, a reviver of Islam, right? Now, these people, the Mujaddids, are highly praised by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is a massive position, and we can all agree that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not be praising deviants. Now, I have a question for Salafis here. Who is the Salafi Mujaddid in the 4 centuries between Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Abdul Wahab? You don't have any candidates. You don't need, and by the way, you can't clearly identify who is a Mujaddid. But the problem for Salafis is you don't even have any candidates for Mujaddid. Someone might be thinking Ibn Qayyim is a candidate, but no, he was born in the he was in the basically his age was in the same century, 7th century, as Ibn Taymiyyah. He can either be so he's only a Mujaddid for the 7th century. He can't be for 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries. The 4 centuries where Salafis are missing candidates for Mujaddid. If that's the case, right, Salafis don't have Mujaddids in that time period, meaning scholars of other beliefs are Mujaddid, which means other beliefs are correct and Salafiyah is false. Now, another one of the Salafi claims are basically regarding mushriks.
Sorry, time is over. It's over. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now it's time for the rebuttals. So Amir is gonna start. He's gonna have 5 minutes to address Ammar's opening statement, and then Ammar is gonna also have 5 minutes to address Amir's opening statement, and then we're gonna have the open discussion. So once you're ready to start, I'm gonna start the timer, Amir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You said there is a hadith of the Prophet that the safe sect is gonna last. You haven't proved that I'm opposing the safe sect because I'm quoting from the Salaf that my beliefs are in line with the Salaf. Hence, you have not proven that I'm a new sect or that our beliefs are new because our beliefs are actually present at the time of the Salaf. That's one. So your first argument is refuted. And you also said that the Ash'aris are majority and we just appeared. Okay, then explain why Ibn Asakir, he actually uses verses from the Quran that say, oh, most of the people do not believe, most of the people do not know. He uses this to prove that even if we're the minority, referring to himself, the Ash'ara, he said this does not prove that we're incorrect. So please explain this, because you try to quote Ibn Taymiyyah that he said he was a minority. Ash'aris at the time of Ibn Taymiyyah had control of the land, and obviously this is the case. And you said everyone before him is a kafir. He did not say this. This is your understanding. You don't even know Arabic, so you're referring to a translation of the Arabic. He also said Muhammad ibn Wahab takfired his ancestors or whatever. This is not part of the discussion, right? We're talking about if Salafis are Sunnis. We're not defending a few figures of Salafiyya that appeared later on. We're defending our beliefs if they're in line with the Salaf or not. My beliefs personally as a Salafi, am I in line with the Salaf or not? This is the topic, so don't switch the topic. So the beliefs are not absent. It does not contradict the hadith. Why? Because my beliefs are from the Salaf, like I referred to you many books. You said Ibn Qudama says Imam Ahmad al-Tafwid. Ibn Qudama is asked to bring evidence for the statement. Ibn Qudama is not from the Salaf. He's not a student of Imam Ahmad, like the 5 different students of Imam Ahmad that quoted many different things from him, affirming the meanings. If you're going to quote Hanbal, then Hanbal is weak in narration because he opposes the other authentic ones that narrate from Ahmad. So you have to prove that Ahmad made tafwid of hand. And you said qasida or whatever on the Nabawi. Once again, this does not really have any effect on me not accepting what the Salaf used to believe. This is out of the topic again. This argument has nothing to do with me not following the Salaf or being anti-Salaf or against the Salaf. And you said the Ummah cannot do shirk. If you believe the Ummah as in everybody who attributed himself to Islam, then you're actually making a huge blunder here because Ibn al-Arabi, many different Sufiya or Ibn Arabi, many different people who claimed lordship attributed themselves to Islam. Even Qadianis attribute themselves to Islam. Ahmadis attribute themselves to Islam. Jahmiyyah attribute themselves to Islam. Ja'ad ibn Dirham, Hafs al-Fard, Bishr al-Marisi, every one of them attributed themselves to Islam. Does that mean that the Prophet of the Hadith is the Hadith of the Prophet is incorrect now because of this? No, it doesn't. So this is a really bad argument. Ummah as in those who follow the Salaf, not the righteous Ummah basically. And you said the majority of the Ash'aris, of the people are Ash'aris. The majority of the people, even you, do not know that a body is 4 jawhar or 3 jawhar. They do not know that there is something called kalam nafsi. And what is kalam nafsi? The majority of the people do not know that there is some sound or some speech that is without sound or letter. They haven't seen any of this. The majority of the people do not know that there is 2 Qur'ans and one of them is created and one of them is not created. The majority of the people do not deny that Allah is above the throne. The majority of the people do not know that the Qur'an, Surah Al-Baqarah, is the same as Surah Al-Nas. And they do not know that there is no ta'addud in the letters and there is no like bat seen meme. It's not like this. Nobody of them denies this. You said we claim the Hanabi. Once again, this is out of the topic. We say we follow the Salaf. You have to prove that we're opposing the Salaf. That's how you do it. Ibn Qudama, if you're going to quote him as an authority, which I do not believe he's an authority if he in Tafwid, because he has a mistake in Tafwid. He's from Mufawwad al-Hanabila. Ibn Qudama makes takfir on you actually, on the Ash'ara, because you guys say the Quran is created and you deny sound and letter. He said this in Munadhara fi Khalq al-Quran, and he said that I haven't seen a taqiyya like the Zanadiqa and the Ash'ara compared to guys to the Zanadiqa. And then you said the Mujaddid of the Ummah. Once again, a Mujaddid is somebody who calls towards reviving the Sunnah. Once again, no problem in that. We don't have to name anybody. We're defending our beliefs. My beliefs, are they from the Salaf or not? This is what you have to prove. Not tell me, oh, defend Ibn Taymiyyah, defend this figure, defend that figure. We don't have to do that. We're defending the belief, not the people. Once again, you said all lies, and that was an emotional response. When I quoted all the hadith, you said they're all lies, and I quoted the consensus, all lies. What do you mean all lies? And I quoted the 5 books or 6 books, you said all lies. This is not an answer to what I said, obviously. And the books that I quoted, like I told you, are authenticated by many of your scholars, and I have evidence to prove that. Let's go to the evidence. Ibn Manda, like you said, the Ash'ara should have been the whole time, or else they're incorrect. Ibn Manda said the Ash'ara emerged at his time. So what does that mean? You're opposing the hadith. And you know who Ibn Manda is. And he made takfir on the Ash'ara. He said الزنادقة. What else did he say? الزنادقة الأشعرية. This is what Ibn Manda said. الذين ظهروا في هذا العصر. Those who emerged in this century, in this era. فأعرضوا عن الكتاب والأثر واعتمدوا القياس وقالوا.
Time is over.
That's it.
Okay. So Ammar, once you're ready again, I'm gonna start the clock once you start speaking. So go ahead.
Okay, Bismillah. So, to be honest, the amount of stupidity was really impressive. He said basically what Amir is saying, right? And it's very simple, and everyone heard him. That because someone in the Salaf has these beliefs, right? These beliefs are correct. This doesn't work that way. Why? Because Ibn Taymiyyah himself has a reference saying that the people in the Salaf, right, all of them had different contradictory beliefs. They can't all be correct. So this point is false. Secondly, he said he's saying that because someone in the Salaf has these beliefs are present throughout Islamic history. This is false. Think about this. Let's suppose someone has a particular set of beliefs in the year 500. How does that guarantee or prove that those beliefs are present in the year 1000? It doesn't. The level of stupidity is actually quite impressive. Now, the hadith I mentioned is Sahih Muslim 1923. Anyone can check this up. Check it up on sunnah.com. I mean, this isn't complicated. Now, the safe sect, because of this hadith, the safe sect, whatever that is, has to be present throughout Islamic history. Ibn Taymiyyah himself said, and by the way, I've linked this reference in the server you are all on. So the Salafis moderating or whatever, they can post those here for everyone to see. Ibn Taymiyyah is saying that his predecessors and his contemporaries are misguided. If that's the case, the correct Salafi beliefs supposedly are absent for a certain amount of time. If that's the case, because of this hadith, they cannot necessarily be correct. They are necessarily false. Ibn Abdul Wahhab says the same thing. Again, these references are explicit, clear-cut. Ta'wil is ta'til, right? Why are you doing ta'wil of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Abdul Wahhab? Now, he said that Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal has these and whatever beliefs. He's lying. And there's a very simple proof for this. Again, I've posted references from every major Hanbali authority for the past 1200 years. This includes Imam Ahmad and all others. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal's explicit words are saying that we don't know the meaning of these attributes. Not just the kafiyah, we don't even know the meaning. If that is the case, then Salafiyah is false. There is no way around this point. Now, as for the point about the safe sect being the majority, again, when this debate is uploaded on my YouTube channel, because I will upload it there, right? Go check where did I make the argument that the safe sect is the majority in my opening statement. I never did that, because this is not a debate about our Ashari Sunnis. This is a debate about our Salafi Sunni. So maybe Amir will bring it up in the open discussion and I'll address it there. But again, he came up with the conception and I guess he was in denial the entire time. Now, the next point. He said that he addressed basically the hadith of Ummah not falling into shirk. Again, understand this point. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying the Ummah won't fall into shirk. Let's say you just restrict it to Hanabila for a minute. Hanabila approve of Qasida Burda as much as everyone else. Salafiyya is false either way, but I mean, most Salafis won't takfir Ash'aris and Maturidis. They would call them misguided, but won't takfir them. In that case, this problem is even more compounded. But whether you restrict Islam to the Hanabila or you restrict Islam to Ash'aris and Maturidis as well, either way, everyone agrees with Qasida Burda, which is why this was hanging on the walls of Masjid al-Nabi for centuries. This is a fact. No one will deny this point. This is historical reality. If that's the case, and if everyone, whoever the Muslims are, they agree with this, they recited major scholars such as Imam Ibn Hajar, etc., and many Hanbali scholars, no doubt, have written commentaries on Qasida Burda. If that's the case, right, then Ummah, however much you want to restrict the Ummah, has necessarily fallen into shirk. If that's the case, this contradicts the hadith, but hadith cannot be false. So hadith is saying Ummah won't fall into shirk. Salafiyya contradicts that. Hence, Salafiyya is necessarily false. Now, just to go into the point about what the beliefs of Salaf actually were, instead of us basically misquoting each other, right, or imposing our own interpretations on the words of the Salaf, let's take someone we both accept as an authority, Imam Ibn Kathir. He is saying in his tafsir on ayat, in his tafsir of ayat Surah 7, ayat 54, and this is basically something that the Salafis had to temper in the Dar es Salaam translation of tafsir Ibn Kathir, that the literal meaning that comes to the mind of Mutashabihin is negated. Don't take my word on
And
this,
time is
don't
over.
take his words
Sorry.
on this.
5 minutes are over.
Okay.
Okay, so now we can start with the open discussion. So you both are gonna be addressing each other's arguments, but I'm gonna ask you to do not do not interrupt each other too much. Just let each other speak. And so Amir, I guess you can start if you wanna ask him a question or something, and then you can start the conversation. So go
All
ahead.
right, I'll just address a few points and then we can start the discussion. You quoted Ibn Taymiyyah once again to prove it, and you quoted Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Like I told you, this is not going to be helping you because I quoted also Ibn Asakir to prove that they were a minority. And you said, oh, when did I ever make the argument majority means untruth? I didn't say you made the argument. The reason why I quoted Ibn Asakir saying he was a minority at that
You
time
said I made this argument.
I didn't finish my point.
Again.
I didn't say you made the argument. I'm just saying the reason why I said
Yes,
this
you
is
did
to
say it.
prove you didn't make the argument. The
You
reason why I
literally
said this
said it.
is
Let
the
him finish
reason
the question at least.
the
and then you
reason
can
why I
answer.
mentioned this is because to prove to you that they were a minority, which means the others, the opposers of these people, were the majority, and that is us. And so we did appear, according to the Ash'ari himself. You said that we only restrict Islam to Hanabila, or you said that we should. That's what we might do, or we do already. Actually, no, we take beliefs from Shafi'iyya, like Sabun al-Muzani, Ibn Khuzaymah, and we have takfir of the Ash'ara also from the takfir of the Jahmiyyah applies on them, and then we have takfir of the Ash'ara by their name also from many scholars, like we can mention. Something about the Qasida. Once again, not really an
I
argument.
think
And
in
then you
open
said Ibn
discussion,
Kathir.
both of us would speak, right?
What?
Amir, I can't allow
Can
to
you,
make 10
Amir, can you
points.
ask him just one topic at a time? Do not address everything. So just
So
ask him
let's
a
stick to the
question.
topic of ulu, for example. When did we oppose the Salaf in this meaning? Can you prove it? From the Salaf themselves. Prove that we opposed them.
Firstly, as regards to the Salaf, right? Either you going to their words and making your own interpretations, or me going to their words and making their own interpretation is irrelevant, right? Let's accept an authority, someone we both take as an authority, Imam Ibn Kathir, and I'm giving
No,
a
I'll
reference
take the
from
Salaf
his
as an
book.
authority.
Whose interpretation of the Salaf, yours or Imam Ibn
No,
Kathir's?
I'll take one from the Salaf, the student of Imam Ahmad
No,
al-Darimi and
your
Harb
interpretation
al-Kirmani.
or Imam Ibn Kathir's?
No, we'll take al-Darimi and Harb al-Kirmani, and we'll take
Whose interpretation?
al-Bukhari, and we'll take who else? We'll take these people, yeah.
Of course, all of them oppose your beliefs, but right, let's just keep this very simple because I have references.
How does al-Darimi oppose my beliefs?
Ibn Ahmad here, right?
How does al-Darimi and
excuse me?
Harb oppose my beliefs? Can you prove it?
I mentioned
Because I can
Imam
prove that they
Bukhari.
don't. Yeah, Imam al-Bukhari
I
has a
can
whole
prove that he
chapter where
does.
he names the attributes like al-wajh and then al-yad and then this and this. He
Let's
orders
keep
them
it
also.
quite simple, right? Let's make this simple because since you are intent on lying about their beliefs again and
Why do you
again,
keep
right?
accusing me of lying?
So
Isn't this
whether you
dishonest
accept
in a debate? That is
because you
deceptive.
are
You're
a
trying to tell
liar.
your audience that I'm
Amir,
lying. I
Okay,
could say the
hold
same
on.
to
Amir,
you.
Ammar,
Right?
Ammar, hold on. So Ammar, you say he's a liar, so can you at least prove he's a liar? Because you cannot just say he's a liar and then try to discuss other topics. So just stick to the topic. He's telling
Exactly.
you something, you're calling him a liar. Just okay, now present your proofs so you can continue
okay,
like addressing the topic. Go ahead.
okay, I'll just give one evidence of him being a liar, right?
Go ahead.
Just let me give it without being interrupted. Okay, so here's one thing Salafis cannot do. You can't take a scholar all the time and then when you have his references are brought up against you, you can't just neglect him for a minute. Now, this is the reason I'm taking Imam Ibn Kathir. Why? Because most Salafis in the audience, right, and me, and most of the Salafis, even in the speakers, right, we all accept him as an authority. He is saying in his book, the Tafsir of Surah 7, Ayat 54, the literal meaning that comes into the minds of Mutashabihin is negated. Now, not just that, I have references from Hanabila throughout Islamic history that I've linked in the server. And if Amir wants me to read them, I will read every single one of them saying the same thing I am saying. The way, the beliefs of the Hanabila, and I'm taking them as authority regarding what the Salaf said, is that they negate the knowing the meaning of these verses. This is something almost all Hanabila say. If that's the case, right, these are people you claim to take as authority. All of them are saying the same thing I am saying, and again they are saying opposite of what Amir is saying. This is proving he's a liar. He can respond.
Okay, yeah, go ahead if you want to respond.
You said Ibn Kathir is an authority for us. Once again, I'm telling you have to bring from the Salaf because I'm defending the position of the Salaf and my personal beliefs. And I quoted the Salaf and you only quoted Ibn Kathir. I have the full quote that you took part of it from Ibn Kathir. It's in volume 3, page 427. He says, ثم استوى على العرش. فللناس في هذا المقام مقالات كثيرة جدا ليس هذا موضوع. He's saying basically there are so many things in this. This is not the place where I mention all the different opinions. وإنما يصدق في هذا المقام مذهب السلف الصالح. He said the ones in this verse from the Salaf al-Salih, what they say is مالك الأوزاعي الثوري والليث بن سعد والشافعي وأحمد بن حنبل وإسحاق بن راهويه وغيرهم. So he mentions these people as who, the ones who understand this verse correctly, and he wants to show their position. I'm quoting them already. I'm quoting Ishaq ibn Rahuya, I'm quoting these people, and I can quote Malik and Thawri, and I can quote all of them. You can look in Sharh Usul al-I'tiqad Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah for al-Lalaka'i. He quotes 500 people making takfir or affirming that the Quran is not created, and he quotes 418 people saying that Allah is on the throne, and whoever opposes this is a deviant. What does Ibn Kathir actually say? Let's read what he says in Arabic. وهو
Can I just respond to the
إمرارها
first point?
كما I'm reading what he said. I'm addressing the point. إمرارها كما جاءت من غير تكييف ولا تشبيه ولا تعطيل. So what does he say? Pass it as it is, as it came. Do not do تكييف and do not do تشبيه and do not do تعطيل. Do not. If we don't know the meaning, how is he going to say don't do تشبيه, don't do تعطيل? Of course we do know the meaning. This is what he's saying. والظاهر المتبادر إلى أذهان المشبهين, and the one who make تشبيه of Allah, what the apparent to them is, this is rejected. This is what he's saying. منفي عن Allah, the one who accuse Allah of being similar to other people, you have to prove that he's talking about us, the people who approve the meaning. You were the one making the assumption that he's talking about us, but he's not actually talking about us. He said the mushabbihin,
Can
the
I
one who say,
respond now?
no, I'm not done with the answer. The one who said Allah's
How long are
ulu,
you going to take?
the one
It's
who
an
said
open
Allah's
discussion.
ulu,
We are both supposed to
but
speak,
I'm
Okay, hold
addressing
on.
your point.
He
But I'm
let you.
addressing
He
your
let you
point.
finish. So let
How
him finish
long do
as
you
well.
want? Can't
I
you
let you
just
He's
finish.
gonna let you. He's
summarize?
gonna let you finish. He's
I
gonna
let you
let you
finish,
finish
right?
as well.
I'm addressing your point.
Calm down.
This is what I'm doing. You said Ibn Kathir is al-mutashabihin. This is what you said. This is not what the word actually means. Al-mushabbihin. Those who say Allah is like me. Those who say Allah's hand is like my hand. He's talking about these people. This is what tashbih means. Bring me from the Salaf that tashbih means something else. You have to prove that tashbih means what you said. Because we know Arabic, and tashbih means saying there's a shabah between this and this. Obviously, this is what
Okay, I think
everybody knows this.
you should let him respond now. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay. Here's a reference from Tafsir Ibn Kathir, right? He's bringing up. Firstly, he brought up the point about the references from the Salaf. The reason I'm bringing this up because he's lying about most of them. And again, you don't need to take my word on this. You don't need to take anyone's word on this. Now, think about this. Is
Prove that I'm
Imam
lying.
Ibn Kathir a liar? Is
No.
Again, why you interrupting me? Let me finish the point, right? You
You
went
asked me
on
a question.
forever.
Okay, go ahead, finish.
Actually, I
Let him
didn't
finish.
ask you a question.
Just finish your point.
Didn't
Just
ask
finish.
you
Go
a
ahead.
question. Then shut
Go
up
ahead,
and let me
finish.
finish my
No,
point.
no, no. Just finish. Finish. Be respectful and finish your point. Go ahead.
Stop interrupting me. If you want respect, you need to
Okay,
give
go
it
ahead. I'm
first.
telling you. Go ahead. Finish your point. We're waiting.
Okay, now you don't need to take now just to address the audience on this point, right? Don't take my word on this, don't take his word on this. Think about this. Is Imam Ibn Kathir lying about the words of the Salaf? Or is every single Hanabla, because I've referenced dozens of them, right? They can share the references, the Salafis I'm debating in the server. I've linked the references from all of them, and all of them are saying the same thing. They are saying that the meaning is not known, or the we don't know the meaning. And not only are they saying it's their position, it's the way of the Salaf. Now, I have a question. I have references from Imam Ahmad, Imam Ibn Qudama, Imam Ibn Kathir, Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hambali, and dozens of other Hanabila between them and after them. Think about this point. Are all of them liars? Because these are explicit, clear-cut words for them. Now, here's what Imam Ibn Kathir is saying, and by the way, Salafis did tamper Tafsir Ibn Kathir just because of this point, and I'll read what basically it says. Right? People have many positions on this matter, and this is not the place to present them at length. On this point, we follow the positions of early Muslim Salaf, Malik Kozai Thori, Lath ibn Sa'd Shafi, Ahmad Ishaq ibn Rahaweh, as well as others among the Imam of the Muslims, ancient and modern, namely, to let the verse pass as it has come without saying how it is meant, without any resemblances to created things, and without nullifying it. And the literal outward meaning that comes to the minds of the anthropomorphist along with the literal outward meaning that comes to the minds of the
We can't hear you anymore, Ammar.
Your voice cut off.
Yeah, we can't hear anything. Ammar, can you hear us? Yeah, we can't hear anything. I'll pause
I
the
can
time.
continue then.
Yeah,
I'll just
sure,
continue.
you can continue
All right.
while he's.
You keep saying that I'm opposing Ibn Kathir or I'm accusing him of lying. I'm telling you, you're the one who's lying. You said takif without saying how the meaning is meant. When did he say this? He said من غير تكييف ولا تشبيه. He just jumped from takif to tashbih. When did the Salafis say we know the kayf of Allah's istiwa? We didn't know how Allah does istiwa. When did the Salafis say Allah's istiwa is like my istiwa? We never said this. When did the Salafis say Allah does not do istiwa, which is ta'til? The Salafis never said this. When did the Salafis say we accept the zahir that is apparent to the ones who are anthropomorphist? We never said that we're anthropomorphist. فإن الله لا يشبه شيء. And this is what he said afterwards. So he's talking about the ones who say Allah is like something or something is like Allah. فالأمر كما قال and then he says نعيم بن حماد الخزاعي شيخ البخاري, who is Shaykh al-Bukhari by the way, and then he says من شبه الله بخلقه فقد كفر. Whoever says Allah is like his creation is a kafir. When did we say this? But then what did he say? وليس فيما وصف الله به نفسه ولا رسوله تشبيه. And whatever Allah describes himself with something, this is not tashbih. So he's denying what you're saying, because the Jahmi and the Sha'an and the Maturidi often say, oh, this can't be an attribute of Allah because Tijr is the same, and that's why we deny it. But what we say is that no, anything Allah says about himself is not tashbih. This is our position. And then Ibn Kathir says also, البداية والنهاية, you can see, فليس فيه دليل فإن هذا الاستدلال باطل. And he's talking about what the Jahmiyyah used to quote, or the Mu'tazila, about nasheed or poet that says وقد استوى بشر على العراق من غير سيف ودم, which means they want to say that it means istawla. He's denying this. If we did not know the meaning, why would he deny istawla? Because he did know the meaning. This is Ibn Kathir. So please do not accuse me of lying, because you're actually the one who's lying about this. And then Ibn Kathir also says in Tafsir, in volume 5, page 273, he says وقوله الرحمن على العرش استوى تقدم الكلام في ذلك في سورة الأعراف بما أغنى عن towards where he says the way of the Salaf, which is إمرار ما جاء في ذلك من الكتاب والسنة من غير تكييف. Pass it without تكييف. Did he say without meaning? No, he said pass it without تكييف. ولا تحريف. Without what? تحريف, corrupting. If we did not know the meaning, how would he say without تحريف? ولا تشبيه, without saying Allah is similar. Without ta'til, without denying the attribute. And without tamthil, without saying Allah's example is like this example. Not allowed. This is in a tafsir.
Okay. By the way, Ammar, are you here? Are you still here? Because if you're talking, we still can't hear you.
He says والجهمية
Yeah,
تستدل على
he's
الاستواء على
not here.
العرش بأنه استيلاء. الجهمية say
Hold
what
on.
about استواء؟ استيلاء.
I'll try to message him because it doesn't seem like he's even there. He was muted and then unmuted, and now he's not speaking. I don't know what's wrong.
In volume 1 712 sorry in التفسير ابن كثير says شيخنا الإمام العلامة ابن تيمية. See تفسير 4 62 وفي كثير من كلامه يوافق ابن تيمية رحمه الله في تقرير.
Okay, I don't know.
تفسير ابن كثير.
The time it's still paused because I don't know where Ammar went, but yeah, you can continue talking until he comes back.
Okay, you said I'm lying about the Salaf. You're quoting someone after the Salaf to tell me what the Salaf beliefs are. Why don't you quote the Salaf themselves? Because I quoted Sa'id ibn Amir al-Dubai. He died in 210 after Hijrah. In what book is this quoted? Page 30 of Khalq al-Fa'al al-Ibad, Imam al-Bukhari. He said, but they, the Jahmiyyah, say there is nothing upon the throne. He quotes consensus. I'm not only, you also accuse me of only quoting one from the Salaf or two from the Salaf. Actually, this is what the Ash'aris do. They would quote a mistake from one of the Salaf and say this is the belief of the Salaf. And then they would combine all the mistakes of different scholars of the Salaf and start a new Aqidah. No, we quote the methodology of the Salaf. Why did they deny attributes? They said this is Tashsim, that's why we don't affirm it. This is what you guys do. This is not what the Salaf did. The Salaf didn't affirm attributes because they didn't have evidence to affirm it. Or they did not affirm it because they say, oh, the context of this hadith is not meant to prove an attribute, such as Allah jogging. This attribute, some of the Salaf affirmed, some didn't affirm. Ibn Taymiyyah didn't affirm it, for example. But why did the Jahmiyyah not affirm it? Because they said tasaru is impossible on Allah. That's why we don't affirm it. Because it contradicts ilm al-kalam, not because they have evidence from the Salaf on this position, or from the hadith, or from the Quran. Based on the same illah that you guys deny the attributes on, which is, oh, this is tajseem, that's why we don't affirm it. But Ibn Kathir says, whatever Allah attributes himself with is not tashseem or tashbih. In his tafsir, in the same page you're reading, which you added the word from your own. بغير تكييف,
Okay,
meaning,
he left. I think he's gonna rejoin.
all right, no problem.
Yeah, so
wait for him.
let me invite him to speak. So, Ammar, can you hear us at least? If you can. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Right. You want to continue from where you left off?
I also have just a suggestion. If you guys want to continue talking about attributes, go ahead. But just a suggestion, because there's also the issue of Tawheed. That's also one of the major differences. So Ammar, like, do you think, because you're the one who says Salafis are not Sunnis, so do you have a problem with how Salafis view Tawheed and the Tawheed, Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah, the division into three categories, and how they consider, these grave worshipping acts to be shirk and stuff? Do you have a problem with this?
I would go to the topic of Tawheed, but regarding the attributes of Allah, right? As far Discord was showing, I was speaking, but I don't know what happened, which is why you can't listen to me. So Amit said a lot of things, right? Just let me respond to the point about Tawheed.
Okay.
The attributes, then we can go to Tawheed, because I can't let him just talk without responding, right?
Yeah, you can respond. Go ahead.
Okay. As far as the point about Tawheed is concerned, right? And again, think about this. This is not something complicated. And I think the moderator can share the link. I've shared the link with him of the references from the Salaf. I think it's Jurgis.
Yeah, I just sent it again.
So basically, what you can find here is references from dozens of Hanabila throughout Islamic history. All of them are saying the same thing, that we don't know the meanings of these things, these attributes, if that's the case. And they are also saying this is the position of the Salaf. Now, either all of them are liars or the Salafis are liars, because they are saying opposite things about the Salaf and are knowledgeable about this process. One of them is necessarily lying. There is no way around this. Hanabila are not liars, they are respected scholars, hence the Salafis are liars. There is no way around this. In fact, again, don't take my word, don't take his word. Read the Arabic of Tafsir Ibn Kathir published by the Darussalam and read the English translation. Read it. The Salafis basically remove the part and the literal outward meaning that comes to the minds of Mushabbihin is negated for Allah. The Salafis are saying literal outward meaning is correct. Imam Ibn Kathir is saying literal outward meaning is false. So
That's a lie.
by the way, it's the same references from
No need to
from
lie. He
most-
said to the mushabbihin, this is negated, not the word itself, apparent, is negated. He didn't say this.
He said
We
the
have the
literal
Arabic.
meaning that comes. Amir, let me
Why are
speak.
you lying though? I have the text in front of me. He said,
Okay,
إلى أذهان
you are lying.
المشبهين, to the
You
minds
are
of the
lying.
anthropomorphists. He didn't say the
Something
word
else.
itself as tashbih.
The translation is correct translation is, and anyone who can reads Arabic can check this for themselves.
You don't
The
know how to read Arabic.
The correct translation is this: the literal outward meanings that comes to the minds of mushabbihin is negated
Thanks.
for Allah.
This is what he said.
The literal outward meaning is negated again.
He
Imam
didn't
Ibn
say
Kathir,
this. He didn't say this. He
and-
said to the mushabbihin,
Yes,
the ones who
yes,
describe Allah as others.
He's saying the literal outward meaning that comes to the minds of mushabbihin is
That's what he said.
negated for
Yes,
Allah.
that's what he said. That's correct. He didn't say the outward meaning is correct. He said the outward meaning that
He
comes
said
to the mind of the
literal outward
mushabbihin
meaning.
is
This
incorrect.
what it means. This is the correct
No, this is not what it
translation of
means.
the word.
No, it's not. I have the Arabic in front of me. I'm not reading a
Again,
translation.
Don't take my word. Again, Amir, obviously we both think each other is lying, right? So you have already spoken, so let me
I'll
speak.
send the quote right here, no
That's what he
problem.
said.
I'll send it right
Yeah,
here. no
can you send the quote in chat and we
Yeah,
can-
everybody can look at it. Umar is
Okay.
Arabic. He's the moderator. He knows
Yeah.
Arabic. I'll send it. No problem. He said, إلى أذهان
Uh,
المشبهين. This is what's
I will
negated.
assume a lot of them
let me
a lot
quote
of
it
people
in-
here have
Okay.
Darussalam's Tafsir Ibn Kathir at home or in PDF, right? You can check it yourself.
Okay,
Okay, Amir's gonna
I'll-
send it and we'll see.
Okay.
there you go. I
Uh,
bolded the part. I bolded the part that we're using as evidence. It's in bold. Look, Umar. I'll read it if you want, and you can call me out if I'm lying.
Where did you post it?
In general chat, the community.
Oh,
إمرارها كما جاءت من غير تكييف ولا تشبيه ولا تعطيل والظاهر المتبادر إلى أذهان المشبهين منفي عن الله. This is what you said. This is what I said exactly. You said this means that Ibn Kathir is denying the apparent. Ibn Kathir said the apparent to the mushabbiha is denied, just like how he also said the ones who do ta'til are also incorrect and the ones who do
okay,
takyif
so
are also
Ammar,
incorrect.
what's your claim
Amir,
about this
what does
quote?
Zahir mean?
What were
What
you
does
saying about
Zahir
this
mean?
quote?
Zahir means apparent.
Yeah. Apparent what? Apparent meaning or apparent something else?
Apparent
What's
just
this
means
about?
الظاهر, which is
Ammar,
apparent.
what's your claim
Apparent
about
meaning
this?
or apparent something else?
Did Ibn Kathir say الظاهر منفي عن الله, or did he say
Ammar,
الظاهر
so
المتبادر
you
إلى
you
أذهان
guys,
المشبهين?
Ammar,
Is
wait,
this
hold
apparent
on,
meaning or
hold on,
not?
hold on, Ammar. So Amir just told you he sent the quote and he mentioned his own translation. So you're calling him a liar. So what's your own translation? What's the problem? Just so you can figure out the issue. What's the
problem?
correct translation to you?
I need to figure out the issue. What does Zahir mean? Is
Apparent.
that does it mean literal meaning?
It means
Amir said
apparent.
apparent.
Or something else?
Amir said the dhahir is the apparent. What
You
do
know
you
what
think it
ظاهر
means?
means? ظهر in Arabic?
Ammar, what
No,
do you think
tell
it
me,
means if you
does it mean
disagree?
apparent meaning or not?
Bro, ظاهر means apparent.
Is it the apparent meaning here or not? In regards to those
المعنى
ayahs,
الظاهر is apparent meaning, but
is
what
it
he's
apparent
using ظاهر
meaning
here
or
is
not?
talking about the apparent meaning. Yes.
Yes, thank you. He's saying the apparent meaning is negated.
No, he didn't.
Ammar,
He's saying
hold on,
الظاهر
hold on.
المتبادر إلى أذهان المشبهين.
Ammar,
لا,
so the
الظاهر
full,
is negated.
the full
So why are
sentence.
you lying?
Ammar,
Everyone
hold
is
on.
saying this.
Yeah,
Amir,
everyone is reading. So the full
bad enough
sentence
that
is
you are lying
والظاهر
about the
المتبادر
Salaf,
إلى
and
Swear to
أذهان
God, I have it.
المشبهين.
It's
Ammar,
right in
hold
front of
on.
me.
again.
Ammar, so, hold on. So most of us know Arabic, right? And Amir sent the quote. It says وظاهر المتبادر إلى أذهان المشبهين. So can you translate this part entirely? Not just the first two words. What does it say?
The literal meaning that comes to the mind of mushabbihin is negated.
Thanks. This is what I
Okay,
mean.
so okay, fine.
We
So
agree
go
with
ahead.
this.
So now you don't disagree. That's what Amir was saying,
Yeah,
basically.
we agree with this.
Okay, so can continue, both of you.
But what you're
And
trying to
that
make
is
is that
true
he
thing,
means this means he
because the
denies the
literal
apparent.
meaning
How does this
that
make him
comes to
deny
the
the
mind
apparent?
of mushabbihin is negated.
Yeah, because the mushabbihin by definition say Allah's ulu is like my ulu.
Are there two literal meanings?
No. He
Literally,
didn't say the
are
literal
there
meaning
two
is tashbih. He
literal
didn't say this. You have to prove this. He
mean-
didn't say this.
Amir, are there 2 literal meanings, 3 literal meanings, 10 literal meanings, or there is 1 literal meaning?
Since you keep quoting Ibn Qudama as an
Ammar,
authority, he
so
says
the
there
word
is
is
multiple. There is
the
Answer
word
my
is
apparent
even
question.
meaning,
literal.
and there is the first meaning that comes to the mind.
Amir, how many literal meanings are there?
The word is apparent.
There is
Al-Zahir.
multiple.
Al-Zahir means apparent. So you should use this word instead.
You earlier agreed it's literal or apparent. I mean, it's the same
No,
thing.
Al-Zahir
How
is
many
apparent because literal is
literal
like
meanings
a
are there?
grammatical thing. It's the more correct is the
How
And
apparent.
like we quoted from
Zahir meanings
Ad-Darimi,
are there? Whether
you shouldn't use metaphors because the asal is that it's in its
How
origin
many
until you
literal
have
meanings
evidence to
are
make it
there?
a metaphor.
Again, Amir, I'll ask
Go
you a
ahead.
very simple question.
Mhm.
How many Zahir meanings are there? 1 or however
According
many
to
you
me or
like.
according to the one you keep quoting, Ibn Qudama, because you said there is 2.
This is about Ibn Kathir. This is not about Ibn
1.
Qudama. This is a reference from Imam Ibn Kathir. So again, why are you lying?
Look, according to them, what is the Zahir according to
Amir,
them? The Mushabbihin.
answer me. How many literal meanings are there? 1
In
literal meaning or
everything,
dozen?
more. It depends how you view
Yeah,
it as literal or not.
one literal meaning. If 1 literal meaning is
Al-Zahir does
there,
not mean literal here. It means
how
apparent.
many
Al-Zahir in this sentence does not mean literal.
how
It
many
means
apparent
apparent.
meanings are there?
No need to
I mean,
shout. Al-Zahir here means apparent, not literal. He says what
how many
appears to the
apparent
ones
meanings
who
are there?
describe Allah as
Ammar,
being such
we
as other
can't hear you.
things.
Ammar, we can't hear you when you're shouting through your microphone. So try to keep it
How
a bit.
many apparent meanings are there?
Multiple.
You said
How
it's
many literal?
apparent, right?
One.
How many apparent meanings are there?
Multiple apparent.
No, there is
It depends what
one
it
literal
appears to you as.
apparent meaning.
No, it says الظاهر المتبادر إلى أذهان. So he said there
There
is a ظاهر and there is a ظاهر that is متبادر إلى أذهان المشبهين. So he
is
himself proves
one
to you that there is more than one ظاهر. الظاهر here means what appears to the
I
mushabbihin. This is what he's
understand.
saying. You're not even addressing the point. How are you debating me on the Arabic word when you don't even know the word?
Okay. So guys, I think it's enough talking about this topic. So you guys want to talk about Tawheed now? Because yeah, you took too long in this. I mean, the time is already over. But if you guys want to keep going,
We
can
can
talk
do the
about
Q&A.
the
It's
issue.
better now.
Right?
You wanna
Because
okay,
I
Ammar?
Let's do the Q&A since it's 2
You
p.m.
wanna do the Q&A?
no,
Okay.
actually, I wanted to address the point about the hadith of Ummah not falling into shirk. Because he didn't
Oh yeah,
address it.
okay.
He
So you
just
can talk about the Tawheed and Shirk and like whether these actions constitute shirk. And also, Ammar, remember the topic of the debate is are Salafis Sunnis. So what's
yes.
your like? You should yeah. So try to make your argument why Salafis are Ahlul Bidah in these beliefs.
The
Which
only thing I've
According to
done
the
was
Salaf, by the
disagree
way.
with?
Prove it.
argument
Yeah.
regarding the topic, right? The
Yeah.
argument from the Salafi beliefs being absent, if Salafi beliefs are absent, they are not Sunnis. Whether they are absent or not
Can you
is
mention these beliefs?
can be debated, right? But either way, the argument is to the point. Secondly, the point about Ummah not falling into shirk. If Salafis have a wrong understanding of Tawheed and shirk, then Salafis are not Sunnis. They are not the correct saved sect. So either way, both of my arguments are on point. Now, the argument is very simple. The hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu al-Bukhari 1344, right? Again, anyone can go look this up. This is saying the Ummah won't fall into shirk, right? If that's the case, then and since the Qasida Burda is so prevalent among the Ummah, and this argument can apply to Nadi Ali, things like Nadi Ali, it can especially apply to Istighasa, right? These things are prevalent among the Ummah, among all the Hanbali, Shafis, Malikis, and
How about we read
Hanafis.
the hadith
Okay,
for
hold
ourselves?
on, Amir, hold on. So
he's
Ammar,
not done.
basically, your claim, I just want to clarify so Amir can respond. So you're claiming that basically, since the Prophet said this hadith, he said his ummah is not going to fall into shirk, that means that anything that a Muslim does is by default going to be tawheed, and it's impossible for a Muslim to commit shirk.
No, the claim
Then
is
what are
the
you
vast
saying?
majority of the Ummah cannot fall into shirk.
The vast majority of the ummah cannot fall into shirk.
Yeah.
So, do you think the vast majority of the ummah knows about the Qasida Burda?
Certainly. I mean, most of them decided without even knowing it. It's so prevalent among the Ummah. Like,
Okay.
this is the most popular poem
Do you
in the
know?
world.
Do you know? Can you recite to me the first line? Do you know it? Can you
I
recite the
don't
first
speak
line?
Arabic. I don't
You don't
speak
speak Arabic. So how do you know the Qasida Burda?
I haven't memorized it.
Okay, let's let Amir respond. I just wanted to clarify. Go
You
ahead,
quoted
Amir.
the hadith. You quoted the hadith 1344. By
By
Allah, I'm not afraid that you will worship others along with Allah after my death. Who is he talking to here? You have to prove that he's talking to the entire ummah. He's talking to the people around him. And then he said, but I'm
you
afraid that you will fight one another for worldly things. If he's talking about the entire ummah, then there is no problem of him saying this. Didn't Ibrahim make dua so that he does not fall into shirk and that his family does not fall into shirk? This is not the same, obviously, as your understanding of the hadith. Because the Prophet said, by Allah, I'm not afraid that you will worship others along with Allah after my death. This is what he said. How does this mean that Salafis are misguided because there is some shirki according to you? I don't even know what burda is. According to you, is on the masjid. Therefore, everybody who, since it's on the masjid, then Salafis are
Can I
deviant.
respond now?
How? Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so aside,
Okay.
sorry, just aside from Qasida Burda, can you guys like discuss the actual beliefs? Like, for example, is
Yeah,
this
go
action
for
shirk?
Salah.
Because that's the
Yeah,
important
yeah,
topic, right?
right.
Okay,
With all due respect, I'm not debating you, right? I'm debating him.
He's the
And
moderator.
let
yes,
us
I
You're
just
asking.
want the conversation to flow, but because unless you wanna keep arguing about the same small issue for 10 minutes, I just wanna keep it flowing. So
This is just first response with regards to Qasida
okay,
Burda and Hadith of
okay,
Ummah not following shirk. We just spoke once, right? Let us talk about this a little bit, and we'll talk about Tawheed maybe in our second debate, or maybe just a few points here and there, right? Let me address the point about Qasida Burda. He's saying that maybe it's in a masjid and he's trying to dismiss this point. The hadith is saying you won't fall into shirk. Now, either
It's
this
not saying
can
this,
be.
no. He's not saying this. He said, I'm not afraid that you will worship
I
others
didn't
along with
interrupt
Allah
you, right?
after my death.
Amir, don't interrupt me.
Yeah, quote the hadith
Okay,
better
okay,
next
go
time. Don't lie.
we both
finish
think
your
the
point.
other person is lying, right? Just let me speak, and then you can speak. Let me speak now. Now the
Yeah,
hadith
go
is
ahead.
saying, I am not afraid. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, I am not afraid you will fall into shirk. Now, Amir is saying this can refer to Sahaba or the Salaf and not just the Ummah in general. There is a problem with this. Why? Because this hadith is saying, I am not afraid that you will fall into shirk, but I am afraid you will compete for material things. Now, if we take Amir at his word, this means that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was afraid that the Sahaba, the greatest human beings in
No, he said,
history,
I'm not
the
afraid.
greatest the Sahaba and the Salaf will compete for material things. A'udhu Billah. I mean, the Sahaba are highly praised by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They would not be competing for material things. Who would be competing for material things? The Ummah in general. So this hadith applies to Ummah. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is saying, I am not afraid that the Ummah in general will fall into shirk. If Qasida Burda is shirk, like the Salafi say, then the entire Ummah necessarily has fallen into shirk. This is not complicated. This is not rocket science. And by the way, regarding Qasida Burda being so popular, don't take my word on this. Don't take Amir's word on this. This is something Muslims and non-Muslims acknowledge. This is the single most popular poem in the world. This is not rocket science. This is not, again, this is not something I'm making up. This is something everyone acknowledges. There is just no way around this point. This is
Okay,
the
Can you
most
talk now?
popular poem in the world
Can you
and
talk now?
widespread among Muslims. If
You
this
just
is
keep
shirk,
repeating
like
that
the
it's
Salaf
widespread.
yeah, Ammar, you got your point across. So
but the
Amir, go.
hadith cannot be false, hence this is not shirk, and hence Salafis are
Yes,
false.
we
Amir
okay.
can
So
respond.
So if it's
Amir, go ahead.
shirk, I'm not following the Salaf. I don't understand how that adds up.
I
Anyway,
didn't hear
so
you. Can you repeat what you said?
if it's shirk,
Go
supposedly,
ahead,
how does
Amir.
that make me not my beliefs? How does that make my beliefs not according to the Salaf's methodology? I don't know how it doesn't adds up to me.
It's
It
shirk,
makes no sense
right?
to me.
It's shirk. Then the entire ummah, almost all of the ummah, literally has fallen into shirk. That
How
contradicts
how the entire ummah fall into shirk according to me? How?
according to the Salafi beliefs.
According
Qasida
to me,
Burda is shirk.
how is the ummah falling in shirk if the burda is shirk? How?
Amir, you are dodging the argument, right? This is
Ammar,
I'm
very
trying to
I'm
simple.
sorry,
understand the
one
argument.
second. So
Salafi
yes,
beliefs,
as
right?
the moderator, I just want you guys to understand something. So Ammar, you cannot force him to accept a belief that he doesn't. Amir doesn't even seem to know about Qasida Burda, so you cannot keep arguing about it. It's not something that's like a fundamental part of the Salafi Aqidah. You should discuss the actual beliefs. So if you want to argue that Salafis are not
This is an
Sunnis, you
important
should.
aspect of the Salafi Aqidah, because the same thing, the reason why Qasida
Yes,
Burda
but
is shirk is
Salafiyya,
because
Qasida Burda is not part of Salafi. It's just a poem, and you don't know it. No, most people don't know it. It's not an foundational belief.
this is a very important topic. Again, the
Yes, it's
same
an
reason
important topic if you discuss the beliefs themselves, not the poem.
Istighatha is shirk is the
Okay,
same
Istighatha.
reason
Talk about
Qadiani
Istighatha.
is
Go ahead.
shirk. If these
Istighatha
are
is a
not
good
Well,
topic.
shirk,
hold on. Is the argument that because it's famous, that means Salafism is incorrect? Is the argument because it's famous,
Ammar,
that's why?
so hold on. So let's talk about Istighatha. You said so. You say Salafis say Istighatha is shirk, right? And you disagree with them. You think they are wrong. So why not discuss this instead of discussing Qasida Burda, which both of
because
you
the
don't know
topic,
it?
here's why. Here's a very simple reason why.
Yeah.
With regard to Istighatha, I can bring references from Hanabila, Shafis, Malikis,
From the
Hanafis,
Salaf,
and
please.
dozens
From the Salaf, please. Because their
scholars
beliefs also have to have lasted since the Prophet's time. So you have to bring from the Salaf according to your own criteria.
about
So Amir,
from
can you present? I'll just propose something.
Mhm.
I can propose something.
It's not from. This is not an argument from Akida. This is an argument from history. Think about this. This is a very
But this
simple
is an
argument.
argument of Aqidah. You're saying Salafis are not Sunnis. This is not a historical argument. It's a creedal
This is
argument.
an argument from history, and let me explain why it's an argument from history.
Okay,
But the
go ahead.
first argument was an argument from history. This is an argument of what people believed. This is not an argument of whether they believed what they believe is correct or not.
So
That's a
Salafi
different thing.
beliefs can be
What?
correct, but they're still not Sunnis?
Yeah, is that what you're saying? We can be correct, but we just appeared now,
We're
so the
talking
haqq
about
appeared
whether
later
they are
on.
Sunnis or not. So their beliefs are the
You have
most
to
important
prove.
part of the
Exactly.
conversation.
Yeah. Ammar, you have to prove our beliefs are new and invented newly, and they're not apparent in the time of the Salaf.
I
Not only
understand
one
the desperation,
statement of the Salaf, but multiple statements and consensuses.
right? But
Because
you
we can
can't
show
just
you, for
put
example, al-Iman, it's qawl, amal, fi'l, or niyya. We can show you this, right? Qawl, amal,
you are
i'tiqad,
literally
niyya.
talking against the words of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam here. Why? Because he said the Ummah won't fall into shirk. And you can try to pin this on the Sahaba, but then you would have to take
I
the
didn't
belief
pin this on the Sahaba, emotional argument. And
said
he didn't
that
say they're going to compete in material things. He said you're going to fight with one another forward.
you did try this first. This debate is being recorded, right? You did
It is
try to pin
recorded
this
by
on
me.
Yes. Okay, hold on. So I'm gonna try to help. So Ammar, I think he's saying the hadith of the Prophet. He's saying the Prophet said, "My ummah will not fall into shirk." Therefore, istighatha and all of these acts, they're also not shirk. So what's your response?
Is this the argument, Ammar?
Yes, this is the argument.
Okay,
Right? Because
Okay, no
respond to
problem.
it.
Ibn Arabi said, Allah is my slave and I'm his Lord. Is this shirk or not shirk? He's from the Ummah, by the way.
Yeah, Ibn Arabi is a very famous scholar. Do you know him,
Yeah, very
Ammar?
famous. He has a tafsir.
yeah,
That's
I know
very
this,
famous.
but I discuss this point very simply, right?
Ammar, is he
I
mushrik
said
now? He said
I
Allah is
said
his
earlier,
slave.
let me explain. I said earlier, and this is recorded, that the vast majority of Ummah won't fall into shirk. I don't think even Arabis are kafir, and we can have a later discussion on this. I don't have the specific references for that right now. But
No,
for
just
this
the
moment,
statement, just the
for this
statement.
debate, Amit, let me grant that he's a kafir. For this debate,
Okay.
still my argument
Okay.
holds. Because according to the hadith, the vast majority of Ummah cannot fall into shirk. If that's the case, right, then things like Qasida Burda that have been prevalent throughout Islamic history
And
for
the
large
hold on. This is a bad argument. Can I address this?
that necessarily cannot be shirk.
How does this mean that everybody accepts it?
And your beliefs
How
are
does
false.
it mean that everybody accepts it? How does it mean the majority of the people accept it?
Of course they accepted it. I
No,
mean,
how?
why-
Prove it. Nobody cares. Nobody looked at it.
your opinion is worthless. Personal opinion
Yours
and feelings.
also is worthless. You haven't provided any evidence. So you're saying just because there is a widespread poem, that means the people are misguided because of this, if it has shirk? Bro, you know there is poems by Imru al-Qais. He's from the Jahiliyyah. There's poems from him who are widespread. Can you just listen to me, please, because I'm addressing your point? Can you just listen to me because I'm addressing your point? I understand
Amir,
your
finish your
argument.
point, and
Can
then
I address
Ammar,
it,
go ahead.
please? Ammar, you
I'll
made
let
the
you
argument. Ammar, you made the argument. Just let me address it. Don't just keep
Yes,
making
go
the
ahead,
same
go ahead.
argument once again, right?
Go
You
ahead,
said
be quick.
the Prophet said the majority of, for the sake of the argument, I think you said the majority of the Ummah will not fall into shirk, and then you quoted the Qasida Burda being famous and widespread amongst people. Therefore, they have to, as you said, this is the premise. All of them, majority of the people believed in it and they accepted what's within it. This is part of your premise. If you deny this, then my argument works, that they didn't care about it, they didn't look at it, and only a few people knew about it. So you said, oh, majority of the Ummah knew about it and it was widespread amongst them. Therefore, if you say this is istighatha is shirk, then you have to accuse all these people that knew about this poem to be mushrik. No, this is not necessary. They could have knew about it and rejected it. They could have knew about it and accepted it. Some people, they could have knew about it and or not knew about it. Sorry, in the first place. But then we have also poems that are widespread from the Salaf, from after the Salaf. I myself have an ijazah in some of these poems that are also widespread, and even poems from Ibn Taymiyyah, which Ibn Rajab himself has an isnad in. Many of the poems, like Al-Ra'iyya, Ta'iyya, you have Al-Mimiyya from the Salaf, many of them. They all have poems from the Salaf. Even after the Salaf, Al-Khalaf, they also have poems.
Okay, so
I'm not
let's.
done. I'm not done
Ammar.
addressing. I'm not done addressing.
Okay,
And the
try to
poem
be
of
quick,
Imr
Amir.
al-Qais is also widespread and famous, and we still have it in books today, and it's also widespread, and it has things from the Jahiliyyah in it. Does it mean that the Ummah are kafir according to you?
Okay, so
Okay,
Ammar,
I'll-
before you speak, so I'll let you finish your point, and then we're gonna move to the Q&A. So try to respond to him, and that's the final part, because I think we've had enough of this. So go ahead, Ammar.
Okay. Okay. Firstly, I think he's implying that Amir sort of implied that because they don't know it's shirk, they are not mushriks. I don't think that follows. I mean, according to
didn't say that.
basically, he did imply this. He's
They
not.
didn't know what
then
it
okay.
is. This is what I said. They didn't
Then
know what's
what
inside it. They
advice
didn't know it.
is relevant? If they don't know what it is, then you are saying what I said you are saying. Again, why the double speak? Now, think about this point. He said the other points are popular. How is this relevant to the topic? The topic is about shirk. If this poem is shirk, right? And the Salafi belief is that this is shirk, and things like Nadi Ali, etc., Istighasa are shirk. And these things are widespread among Islamic history. Again, this is not something you need to take my word on. This is something both Muslims and non-Muslims acknowledge. If this is shirk, right, then it is necessary that the Ummah has fallen into shirk. That contradicts the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and
So
that's
the argument,
not.
premise one is Qasida Burda
It is
exists.
not.
Premise two, Qasida
If
Burda has shirk in it.
are you
Okay,
interrupting me?
Amir, let
He
him
said,
finish. Let
Go
him
ahead,
finish.
no problem.
so
Go ahead.
so because of either this is shirk, in that case the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is false, or it's not shirk, right? And the Salafiyah is false. The hadith cannot be false, and hence the Salafis are necessarily wrong. This is necessary. There is no, the logic clearly follows. There is no way around this point. I think I've spoken enough of this on this. I'll just do a 10 minutes Q&A, then I have to go, and please someone
Okay,
share the
okay,
record.
we'll do. We're gonna do Q&A. I think Amir, you've already basically responded to him, and you're just gonna be repeating yourself, both of you. So let's start the Q&A. I'll also start the 10 minutes timer just to have a rough approximation. So if you have a question to either Amir or Ammar, type them in chat right now, and I'm gonna ask them. So. Okay, so one of Ammar's main arguments was that Salafi and Salafi beliefs were absent from the Islamic history for centuries. How does he reconcile this with the fact that Ash'ari beliefs first came into existence in the 3rd century? Okay, Ammar, this is a question for you. Can you answer?
Okay, basically this question is assuming that there are no Mufawwid Hanbalis, or basically that the Hanabila and the Salaf had Salafi beliefs. This is false, because they did the feed. We can prove this. Now you can argue
Okay,
that
but he's not asking
because
about Mufawda. He's specifically asking like Ash'ari beliefs, like the Ash'ari school. He's
the,
asking why it
Umar,
came into existence in the 3rd century. So go ahead.
I am addressing this point, right? I mean, I need to ask the person in the audience question. I don't need to answer your questions as well.
Yeah, his
Just let
question.
me.
No, his question is about Ash'ari. Specifically, he's saying
You
the Ash'ari
just
school.
answer.
I'm
Can't I
asking.
answer?
Yeah, you can answer his question, but just so you
Umar,
know his
here's
what he's asking.
give me 1 minute to speak. If I don't
Yeah,
answer
yeah.
in the 1 minute, interrupt
Go
then.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Now the question was assuming that basically the Salaf they had the beliefs of Salafis. Why? Because here's the assumption here: the safe sect has to be present, right? If I was saying that only the Asharis or only the Maturidis are correct, yes, this would be an argument against my position. But I don't say that, do I? The Sunni position, the traditional Sunni position is that Asharis, Maturidis, and the Mufawwid Hanbalis, they are all Ahlus Sunnah.
No.
The Mufawwid beliefs and their beliefs are clearly present in that time period. So again, this hadith does not work against us. Secondly, the assumption is that the Salaf had Salafi beliefs, so-called Salafi beliefs. This is false. According to the reference that what Imam Ibn Kathir says in his tafsir, and according to the references from dozens of Hanabila that I have referenced, and I think Umar will share the link for that.
Yeah,
All
I've
of them
already
are.
shared it. Okay, so we have another question. He's asking, what is your view on the istiwa of Allah? And he mentioned Surah Taha Ayah 5, but there's also other verses. What's your view? Ammar.
Well, uh, my view is the traditional Ashari and Maturidi, the traditional Sunni position, and even some of it, that I do tafweed. I don't do tawil. The like these
Okay.
verses have a meaning, right? We just don't know the meaning, and the
Okay.
literal meaning is.
How about you, Amir? What's your view?
My view, I'm not gonna create it from my own. I'm not gonna say, oh, someone later from after the Salaf said the Salaf believed this. Let me quote you the Salaf themselves. Sa'id ibn Amr al-Dubai quotes the consensus: the Jahmiyyah are worse in their statement than the Jews and the Christian. The Jews and the Christian, along with the people of other religions, agree that Allah, blessed and exalted, is above the throne, but they, the Jahmiyyah, say there is nothing on the throne. Ishaq ibn Rahuya says, Allah the Most High said, the Most Compassionate rose over the throne. See, now they translate this verse. The consensus of the people of knowledge, this is consensus from Ishaq ibn Rahuya, and he's a famous, trustworthy person who quotes consensus, is that he is above the throne and he knows everything that is in the seventh earth. Where is this from? This is from Ad-Dahabi. He narrated it in Kitab al-Ulu, and he said it's authentic. Let me move on. Qutayba ibn Sa'id said, the statement of the Imams in Islam and the Sunnah and the Jama'ah, we know our Lord above the seventh heaven on his throne. As the most merciful said, the compassionate rose over the throne. Abu Zur'a
Okay.
al-Razi and Abu Hatim al-Razi and Ibn
Yeah.
Abi Hatim. Just the last one. I asked my father Abu Hatim and Abu Zur'a about the opinions of the people of the Sunnah regarding the foundation. Now, this is of the religion and what the scholars from all regions agreed upon and what they believed in. They said the scholars from all regions, including the Hijaz, Iraq, Sham, Yemen, agreed upon the
guys,
following.
I think
Faith is a
that's enough.
statement and action and increase and a decrease, and they believe that Allah Almighty, the Majestic, is above his throne.
Okay,
Distinct from
Amir,
his
I
creation
think
as he described it.
I think it's enough. So let's, because there's many questions. So I'm sorry, guys. So let me find another question. Okay, so he's asking opinion on this. Imam at-Tirmidhi rahimahullah said, Allah mentions the hand, the hearing, and sight in several places in his book, but the Jahmiyyah interpreted these ayat differently than Ahlul Ilm, and they said Allah did not create Adam alayhi salam with his hand, and that the hands meant strength or power. So Ammar, what's your opinion on this quote?
Okay, firstly, regarding the misquoting of the Salaf, because that's what's going on
Well,
here,
no,
and I'll give a.
Ammar, because this is a question from the audience. You're not talking to each other anymore. So I'm gonna ask you, and then I'm also gonna ask Amir and so on. So just answer the question from the audience.
References earlier.
Huh?
You let him give a dozen references earlier.
You can give
Amir,
references if you want. If so, here, there's a question about one of the references from Imam Tirmidhi.
regarding the attributes, right? Okay, I'll give a few references in this
No,
regard.
but can you answer the question from? There's a question in chat. Did you read it?
Yeah,
I
I'm answering that.
from Imam
Regarding
Tirmidhi. Can you? Yeah.
yes, what Imam Tirmidhi said regarding basically the site and everything that is mentioned, right?
Yeah.
I'm just addressing this. Basically, the Salafis or whatever are taking them out of context. They don't mean Allah's
Okay.
literal eyes or whatever. And I'll give a simple reason for this. And I actually explained the deception of Salafiyah very simply. He said that Imam Zahabi is saying that basically he has the same beliefs as Ibn Taymiyyah. I'll give a reference right now of Imam Zahabi saying that I disagree with Ibn Taymiyyah and creedal issues.
Ammar, I'm
and
sorry,
of,
but this is not
Imam
this is not
Zahabi
the open
saying
discussion.
that
Hold
Ibn
on.
Taymiyyah is a liar.
Ammar,
Umar,
this is not I'm
Address
sorry,
the point,
I
please.
muted him. This is not Ammar, listen to me, you're muted. So this is not an open discussion. This is not, you're not continuing the debate. You're answering the questions from the audience. So the audience is gonna give you some questions and you're gonna answer them. Do not talk about the other topics. So the question here, I'm gonna unmute you after I finish. The question is a quote from Imam Tirmidhi, and it says, Allah mentions the hand, the hearing, and sight in several places in his book, but the Jahmiyyah interpreted these ayat differently than Ahlul Ilm, and they said Allah did not create Adam alayhi salam with his hands, and that the hands meant strength or power. So that's a quote, and that's a question you're asked. If you don't want to answer it, it's fine, we can skip it. Just let me know you don't want to answer it. But we don't want to waste this time talking about completely different topics. So go ahead.
Umar, this is
Yes.
relevant to this topic. Why?
No, but he's asking
Because
you a specific question. It's not about relevant or irrelevant. It's a specific question. Can you answer it? Ammar,
Can you
this
give
is
me
not.
30 seconds to explain why this is relevant?
I'll give you 2 minutes to answer that, but answer the question. Do not talk about a
Give
different
me
topic.
30 seconds to explain why this is relevant.
No. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. I'm gonna give you as much time as you need to answer the question.
Relevant to the
This is
topic.
called question and answer. Go ahead.
Okay, as far as the topic is concerned and the question is concerned, the
Yes.
assumption here is that Imam Tirmidhi is basically saying that Allah has literal hands, like physical hands or whatever, and all of these things.
Okay.
This assumption is false, and there's a very simple reason for this. Read any Hanbali scholar and give her references from dozens of them. All of them are saying the same thing. The position of the Salafis, they deny the literal meaning. Now, either all of them are liars. Either Imam Ahmad is a liar, Imam Ibn Qudama is a liar, Imam Ibn Kathir is a liar, Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali is a liar, or the Salafis are liars. You decide who is a liar here. Because one of these two has to be a liar. And again, Amir, and this is a clear-cut example of this. Amir was basically lying earlier. He's saying that Imam Zahabi basically has the same beliefs as Ibn Taymiyyah, or he was trying to imply it, right? I can bring a reference right now, 2 references. Imam Zahabi is saying that he has
Okay,
different views
so
from.
yeah, so your answer to the quote from Imam
That
Tirmidhi.
Imam
No,
Zahabi says Ibn Taymiyyah is a liar.
yeah, so his answer to the quote from Imam Tirmidhi is that what he meant in this quote is that it's not the literal attributes. That's his answer. So Amir, what's your opinion on this quote?
When I read this quote, let's see what he says actually.
Yeah, Imam Tirmidhi.
Allah mentions the
just
hand.
answer this quote, please. Do not mention any other quotes. So go
Allah
ahead.
mentions the hand, and he said, the Jahmiyyah, they understand this different than Ahl al-Ilm. So the Ahl al-Ilm do understand what this means. And then he said, the Jahmiyyah say Allah
Okay.
didn't create Adam with his hands. Why did he say this? Do the Jahmiyyah say, deny the verse in the Quran? Did they deny the lafz of the verse? No, they don't. See what I mean? So he accused them of saying that he didn't create Adam with his hands because of what they mean by hand. Because they denied the real, literal meaning of hand.
Okay.
And then he said the hand means power according to the Jahmiyyah.
Okay, so this question is to Amir. So he's asking, I think he means, yeah, so what do the Maturidis and Ash'aris do that takes them out of Ahlus Sunnah?
Simple enough. We have usul, principles of Ahlul Sunnah. What are the principles of Salafis or Sunnis? The principle is Quran, Sunnah, Salaf al-Salih, Ijma'. We see what the Salaf said. We accept what the Salaf said. Do we accept only one opinion and accuse all of the Salaf of contradicting each other? No. Do we take one opinion and say everything else is wrong, cut this one scholar from the Salaf? No. We take the methodology of the Salaf and how they understand the attributes, and most of them, not just one or two. And that's we have consensus that I quoted earlier from many scholars, which he accused me of lying, and I give the source, subhanAllah.
Okay.
Why are Maturidis not Ahl Sunnah? Because they oppose these principles. They deny and negate and affirm based on ilm al-kalam, not based on Quran and Sunnah. That's why.
Okay, so let me see. Okay, so I think this question is to Ammar. I'm gonna mute you. So he's asking why you always assume that Muslims and non-Muslims know this. I'm not sure what he's referring to. Maybe it's the Qasida Burda. Abdullah, can you elaborate your question? Can you elaborate? No, hold on, Ammar. Hold on. No, hold on.
The first question was asked to me, and you lead.
I did not ask a question yet. Hold on. Okay, let me see another question. Okay, so here's a question to you, Ammar. Please don't start speaking before I finish. So the question is, yeah, so it's another report. So please address this specific report as the question says. So it's, he says, regarding the ayah, تجري بأعيننا, Al-Imam al-Lalaka'i, rahimahullah, narrates from Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu anh, that he gestured to his 2 eyes under the chapter on the affirmation of the face, the 2 hands, and the 2 eyes. So what's your opinion on this report? Go ahead, Ammar.
Umar, when the first question was asked, it was asked to me.
We're not talking about the first question. Did you listen to the question I just asked, Ammar?
I listened to it. The first question was
can you answer? I didn't ask about the first question has already been answered.
I am telling you about the first question. Now Amir answered his question. Why can't you let me respond to it as well?
Because this was this is not a the question was, yeah, this is a Q&A. If the question is not,
you let Amir respond as well.
Because for general questions, okay. So he's complaining that I didn't let him answer the question why are Maturidis and Ash'aris not from Ahlul Sunnah. It's because you view them as Ahlul Sunnah. So how are you going to answer this question? If the question applies to both people, I'm going to ask you both. But if it only applies to one person, I'm going to ask it to one person. So Ammar, stop mentioning previous questions. Please answer this question. This question is about a report from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh. And let me read it out again. I'll unmute you. So regarding the ayah tajri bi'ayunina, Imam al-Laka'i narrates from Abdullah ibn Abbas that he gestured to his two eyes. So Abdullah ibn Abbas gestured to his two eyes, and he narrated it under the chapter on the affirmation of the face, the two hands, and the two eyes. So what's your response to this, Ammar? Please don't shout. Just answer the report.
It was relevant to me. Of course it was. Why are you again? This is getting pathetic now. Again,
What's your answer? I don't understand.
Can I speak without being muted?
Can you answer the question? I'll let you speak for 2 hours.
Without being muted?
Yes, you can speak without being muted for 2 hours if you can answer the question, because this is a Q&A. It's not a stand-up comedy show. You have to answer the questions that are being asked.
That's the thing you can't do in our debate, right? As a moderator.
No, I can do it if you're not
following the same beliefs as
if you're not following the instructions, I can mute you and I can even kick you out. I can do anything because you're not following the instructions. This is a Q&A part. Okay, now he left, of course. Yeah, like it's a Q&A part and he's trying to have a speech about a completely different topic.
People are asking summarize the debate, but it's over.
By the way, if someone wants to, I think it's basically over. If someone wants to jump in and
all right, I'll stop recording.
Talk or ask. Yeah, I think you can stop recording.
Okay,
yeah.
Guys,
anyone who wants to speak, go ahead.
You can ask many questions now about the debate, but keep it to the debate only.
Yeah.
And VC, you can ask also.